Okay, Assalamualaikum and very good evening. So,
Waalaikumsalam.
here, Mr. Hidayat.
Yes.
Okay, so I will be interviewing you about
Mhm.
our topic discuss about mental health
Mhm.
and well-being among youth.
Mhm.
So, first of all, I wanted to ask, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Quite busy, but
Yeah.
I'm doing great.
Yeah, I also want to say that very thank you for accepting this proposal to be interviewed. So I think let's just dive straight to the very first question.
Okay.
I think this question is quite generic,
Mhm.
knowing that there are a few types of mental health disorders. So what is the most common mental health dealt by people here in Malaysia?
Okay. We didn't have very specific because it's very subjective. Okay. But I can see that nowadays, especially after pandemic itself,
Yeah.
it give a very big impact. I can say that depression nowadays is not a common thing. It's just that have been accepted by our citizen lah, our netizen itself. Like to compare previously, people will try to hide it,
Yeah.
not acknowledge it. But nowadays, when we talk about depression, anxiety, about panic attack, I can say that it's not a common thing. It's just that people more realize and more admit and open up on that to compare previous before that, which is previous we didn't have specific data, but nowadays people are openly and came out to share about their problem. I can say that the general one, like the things that we can see people frequently share.
Also, like they kind of self-aware to it. Sometimes they self-diagnose that, oh, I might have depression.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Okay, it's good that we have awareness.
Yeah.
But the issue nowadays, people do self-diagnose, which is sometimes you just only perhaps you just having stress, but you think that you have depressed. Okay, the danger thing is when you thought that you have depression, even though actually you just stress, you put your in your mind and your what we say that you force yourself to be depressed. Sometimes you just stress, but you say, "Oh, I'm depressed because I have this kind of symptom," and then you force yourself to be depressed. And then when you are depressed, there where the other mental health problem can generate, getting worse, can be generate. Yeah. So for me, my own formula lah. This is my own formula. I say, stress. When you are depressed can be cured without any medication, but sometimes depressed can be to more severe to other mental health issue. So nowadays is we want to assure that stress and depressed, yes, depressed, but sometimes depressed is just because of the environment during that period. But more than the time period that we have, it can generate into a severe one. So we adhere, if we talk about UTP itself, we try to at least until depressed state only. So which is we can cure by during the session, we not go for medication to the psychiatrist.
Okay. So moving on to the next question. I think for this question you can answer based on, like, if you happen to have any data, can talk about it, or you can also answer based on your experience, like from people here in UTP who came here. So what is the age group mental health issue prominent in?
Wow. I didn't have common data, but I can say that based on my observation. Okay, we go into gender first. Okay, if we go in by gender, I can say that actually for mental health itself, especially if we have data for suicide. Okay, male much more attempt to suicide to compare women, but women will open up more, sharing that they have suicide thought to compare men. Okay, so that's the general knowledge that I think most of us know. So when we talk about which age, okay, we didn't have that specific age because nowadays also we have adult adult autism. At the late age also we have the schizophrenia. Just the symptom might occur at the age of 50. So we didn't have very specific, because nowadays everything can happen because of the pressure. Sometimes because of the lifestyle. It's not only because of the genetic itself. Sometimes just because of genetic. Perhaps you have been born with that, but sometimes nowadays because of food, your lifestyle, your pressure by your peers, your parents, it can occur the symptom. So nowadays we cannot say that, even though autism basically previous day we might found the autism at the children age, young age, but nowadays at the age of 20 the symptom just generate. So there is no specific age, because it can be occur when, what we say that, yeah, because of the surrounding itself lah.
Alright. So, what are some of the main factors or leading causes that people are dealing with mental health issue?
Okay, if you ask my opinion, it's just my opinion based on my sometimes having session. Okay, I can say that actually family. The biggest issue sometimes is because of the family. Sometimes family that very strict can make their children having mental health issue. Didn't confident with yourself. Sometimes family being too linear with their children also can towards mental health issue itself. So I can say that generally I will say towards family, because sometimes previous time the parenting skill is different. So by force, by harm, by punishment towards their child, during that time perhaps it's relevant. The resilience is okay, but nowadays if you use, the parents use the same method, it can create another issue with their children, and then it will continuously. So I can say that if you ask me, I will say the biggest one, it will go to family, because if you have a good social support from your family, at the end it will help a person to recover itself, because like I say, everyone get stressed. Sometimes until one level perhaps you might get depressed because of your work or your study, but if you have a good social support, especially for your parents, it really reduce, because everyone have their own pressure. It's how you deal and how you get the support. Sometimes people didn't get the social support, especially for their parents. You will find it very interesting for me yourself, working as a psychology and counselor. You will find very interesting, because in some cases we might found it was quite a shock, because perhaps our friends' appearance might feel it's normal, but if you go deep, actually there is a conflict, especially with the family. So that's why sometimes when I doing session, I only say that even though parents doesn't always right, sometimes there is a parents that very toxic. So if you are in condition that your parents is toxic for you, so you should have barrier, but it's not mean you have to cut the relationship. It's just that you put barrier so that it's not affecting for your mental health. So I can say that family and social support is family is the biggest cause for mental health.
So I think you mentioned earlier about like men being the most who who did suicide, while women like only have the suicidal thoughts. So there is a distinction between men and women in terms of mental health issue. Like, so why, which female group like being the most in dealing with mental health issue, and why that age group?
Okay. When we talk about suicide attempt, yes, the highest case we go for men that attempt suicide. Women just have that suicide thought, didn't go towards suicide attempt. Okay. The reason is, I can say that when you have a problem and then you speak out, and then people will give attention to you. So by sharing, actually when we have a difficulties, it's not that we need someone to solve our problem. It's just that you need someone to hear you out, to help you to figure out how to solve the problem. It's not that that person have to help you. So that's the reason why that woman have suicide thought, but they share, so they reduce the percentage to have the suicide attempt to compare with men. Men didn't. I think because of our culture, especially in Asian culture, we the men should be tough,
Yeah.
men should not be cry and so on. Those
Like
kinds of
stereotyping.
the stereotype. So that's why until one level when you cannot handle it, you don't know how to share it, and then you have the thought that I'm useless, I want to kill myself. So that's why, because you didn't share. Okay, so for me, I always encourage people to share, speak out. And for me myself, I use this kind of method, which is if I have time, I will spend my time to see all the story, the IG story, the Twitter, and so on social media. Sometimes we can see the patterns that people surrounding us share. So if you see that they share something that perhaps quite negative, is not normal, try to reach out, because sometimes by reach out, by saying hello, how are you okay or not, sometimes people just need the social support, people to hear out. Okay, if you might found that, oh, this is something that over my capacity, and then we can refer to the professional. Okay, and then why of that age, I think
Sorry, but why that why that
why that
gender
happen?
group
Why
being
that
the
gender
most? Yeah.
being the most, like I mentioned, because of that lah, because of our stereotype, men should be tough, especially lah. And then the other issue why that happens sometimes because of the expectation from others, especially by parents. For example, men should be a leader, so you should be tough. So that is the stereotype or expectation from the parents, or the first son or the first daughter in the family, you should be responsible for certain thing, which is sometimes perhaps that person can be handle it, or sometimes it will channel to another side. I can say that lah.
I would say that the very first step to solve the problem is that you have to know the problem itself. And in terms of mental health, you have to be self-aware upon that. So, is there any symptoms that people can know of if they are dealing with mental health or not?
Okay. When we're having a problem, the first step is by share with people that can be a good listener. Okay, we have friends that a very good friend, very nice person, but sometimes they are not good supporter, not good listener. You have friends that we are very close, and so on. We did a lot of things together, but sometimes when you have a problem, perhaps this kind of this person of your friends, that's very simple, you can handle. If I did blah 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 blah, he was a good friend, but not a good listener. So I think at our age, at your age, you already know who is your friends in your circle that can be a good listener. So try to find a person that can be a good listener. If you didn't have, or people out there didn't have circle that can be a good listener, then go find professional. You can go for private, you can go for government. Even government nowadays pun, nowadays there is a lot of volunteer, there is a lot of NGO that provide the counseling session, or if not a counseling session, sometimes a consultation session for free. So just speak out when you're having a problem, share with others, because that is the most important thing. It's not that by sharing the problem you will solve the problem, but it will reduce the tense that you have. That's the first thing. And then what's again the other part of your question?
I was asking about the symptom, like
The symptom.
Yeah.
Okay. The symptoms. Generally, sometimes we recognize, sometimes we need other to recognize. Okay, definitely. the most easiest way is on your physical or your appearance. When you change your appearance or you change your attitude, that's mean there is something wrong. In short period, perhaps it's normal because of your emotion, but it basically it if what we say that if consistently, continuously for at least 2 weeks straight. Okay, for 2 weeks straight, so that's mean actually you need to find help. Okay, but if only okay 3 days and then okay 2 days and continue back in 2 days, it doesn't mean that you didn't have that mental health. It just that perhaps you're just being off your emotion, you cannot handle it. But if you continuously, consistently within 2 weeks, the same pattern, attitude and the image, lifestyle and so on, that's mean you need to be referred to others.
Okay, so when relating this topic to youth, youngster and Malaysia, they are very important for the country. So in your opinion, do you think mental health issue among youth will affect Malaysia as a developing country in the future?
Yes, it will be effect on our country itself, especially because you know what, if our teenager cannot have that high resilience, cannot maintain their mental, it's not mental health, high resilience, they cannot maintain their emotion, they cannot maintain their soft skill itself. Because when we talk about mental health, it's related with resilience, your soft skill, and many things related that. So it will be a fact because, say for example, when you have a communication with others, perhaps you cannot accept the rejection, and then how you handle yourself. For example, when you are dealing with other company, having pressure by the boss because you didn't get the tender, for example, and then how you deal with yourself. Is it you always need to win? So that is something is not, I think it's not relevant. Sometimes we do have falling down. So sometimes we will get rejected. But how you handle with that, that's another thing. Because I can say that there's a few cases itself, even though here at UTP itself, because of the pandemic, the social skill have been changed. Some of the students found difficulties. For example, there is this one case I just want to share with you. There's this one case, the student came to do consultation because of the financial problem. But when we going deep, the student was under scholarship. So which is under scholarship, you have financial stable to compare with those that didn't have scholarship. Okay, having and then have financial issue. Going deep to the session, it's not because of the financial issue. It's not because of the financial management. It's just because of the student have a problem with the social skill. This person having problem to buy food at the cafe. When this person going to the cafe, he found himself lost, don't know what to do. At the end, going back to their room, order food by Food Panda, Grab. So just imagine because of that, and then having a financial issue, because of feeling lost, don't want to try something new. So actually, it's not a big mental issue, but it can cause you towards there. Because if you cannot manage to deal with these simple things, for us back, we found it's very simple because just going to cafe and buy any food. But there's a person that having that difficulties because of the pandemic itself have changed the norms, your mindset, being scared to be communicate with other. So that's another thing that I encourage always the other student here. If you might notice that your friends or your roommate is a person not involved a lot going outside from their room, try to invite them to join, do physical activity. Because another thing how to reduce the mental health issue is by having physical activity, which is we will generate and active back our psychomotor. So that's another things. I think that's it so far.
I think because the world is changing, also like make it like, when you have a problem, you have like another solution. Like you said, like this person afraid to go to the cafe because afraid to social or something. They have like another solution. Oh, we have Food Panda, right? So like, yeah, because of the word changing, like make it that person easier while having like a bad effect in terms of like for future, something like that. So moving swiftly onward to the last two questions. Acknowledging that mental health issue is one of the Malaysia's current challenges, how does the country handling with mental health issue, and what are some of their efforts, and if none, what they should have done?
Okay, if you have been noticed, because I can say that government really noticed about this issue, and then when we talk about the society, our community also have been noticed about this issue. So we go back to the government. That's why nowadays, if you notice, last year or the last 2 years, government open for job vacancy for the psychology officer around 300, even though it's not enough, but it was a first step on that. And then this year also they open vacancy for the psychology officer itself, because notice that nowadays we can see that most of the clinics, the government clinics, there will be at least one psychology officer, to compare previously only going to the big hospital only. So that is one what that I can say that government done it, their efforts. And then even though from LKM, which is Lembaga Council Malaysia, they open, we have our own hotline, which is the counsellor that volunteer to have a consultation session by online, by telephone. So which is that for the NGO itself lah. Okay, for the community itself, when you are open up, okay, nowadays we can see that there is a lot of private institution related to counselling and psychology, but at the same time there is also a consultation to handle your emotion, even though I can say that we have an issue, because nowadays there is a lot of person that offer consultation session, but they didn't have any background in psychology and counselling. It's just that they have that what we say that certificate in certain therapy or knowledge regarding mindfulness, mental health. It's good we open out for that. It's just that sometimes I will encourage that people that want to have consultation session, check on the background of the company and the person that do this session, because we have cases here, which is the client, the student actually supposedly have been discharged. I think basically we find that the client can survive, already develop good being positive lah, can discharge for having consultation. You just need to follow up perhaps 1 year, or just follow up if needed. But because this person did have a consultation session with a private institution, and the private don't want to discharge, because when you go to the private, for 1 hour, for one session, 1 hour, they can charge you at least 300 per session. So that is something that not very pleased for us lah, for me myself. So when we talk about the things that have been done nowadays, government have put their effort, and then the NGO have their own effort, and nowadays the community also already more open up to reach out for help. That's why we have a lot of clinic or private consultation or counseling institution. So actually, we are going towards that slowly, even though we do have prejudice when we talk, when someone meet counselor or meet psychologist, because there's still the prejudice or those stigma. You have a problem, which is sometimes it's not because I have a problem. It's just that you need someone to hear out.
Right. So the very last question. I think we as a student are obligated to take falsafah dan isu semasa as one of our subject. And in the subject itself, we will talk about psychology, sociology, metaphysics, and etc. In your opinion, do you think this subject actually acts as one of the approaches to eradicate mental health in Malaysia?
I can say that the subjects can open up and change their student mindset, the most importantly. But at the same times, the lecturer have to make it more interactive. I can say that because like me myself, my background, I have a background in Islamic study, anthropology, sociology, even in counseling itself. So it's really helped you to explore yourself. I would say that it's helped me to explore myself. So I believe that this subject also can explore yourself, even though it's just for one semester subject. It can open up your point of view. The most important things, you have to clear out what the main things that you want to be developed. Sometimes, my own perspective lah, because as a lecturer, perhaps they need to follow the syllabus. But if you ask me for the subject, it's not about the syllabus itself, but how the things, the value that we want our student have it. That is the most important thing, because the value nowadays, the new generation, the value, the what we call that, humanity value is very low. I can say that, which is when we talk about culture, Asian people have the respect on that to compare the Western. So that's the value that we need. We need to keep to our culture, to our community itself. Even though Malaysia we have lot multi races, but I can say that if you go deep down, we have the same value, which is the Asian value, that very polite, that very family oriented. So those kind of value I can see nowadays need to be improved.
So I would say that the subject can help, but also like the lecturer have to like give that like a place where student can reach out or like talk about something.
Yes, the value, the topic. I think because previously I also on my previous company I also been teaching that subject. So having discussion, having debate, and having sharing is the most important thing. I think the main, if you ask me about that question, I will say the value, how you want to build the value into our student.
Alright, so I think that's all for this interview.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for accepting this proposal to be interviewed.
Okay, no
So
worries.
that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.